Today we're going to talk about immigration. Now, immigration is the action of someone coming to live permanently in another country. As a matter of fact, a lot of us have ancestors who immigrated to the United States, and those ancestors are called immigrants. So, why did immigrants come to this country? Well, beginning in the late 1800s, millions of immigrants left their homelands in Europe to journey to America. For some, it was due to religious or racial persecution. For others, it was the availability of jobs, food, and a better way of life. Some immigrants came because harsh rulers or tyrants like Italy's Benito Mussolini, for example, gave them little freedom in their own countries. The bottom line is that many immigrants felt that coming to America was like opening a door to a new life. When the immigrants journeyed to America, airplanes didn't exist, so they traveled across the Atlantic Ocean in ships. Now, wealthy immigrants traveled in roomy cabins with running water. The less fortunate stayed in steerage, something of a basement of the boat near the steering equipment. Now, this area was often overcrowded and unsanitary. Some shipping companies even let passengers set sail on leaky boats. Many people, especially children, got sick on these waterlogged ships. Where did they go when they arrived? Well, immigrants sailed into many seaports throughout America. Between 1880 and 1900, about 9 million immigrants entered the United States. The nation's first and largest port was in New York, where about 75% of America's immigrants were received. And in 1891, the U.S. government created a Bureau of Immigration that would take charge of the immigration process. In 1892, the immigration station at Ellis Island in New York Harbor was completed. For the immigrants who sailed into New York Harbor, one of the first sights they saw was the Statue of Liberty before porting at Ellis Island. Lady Liberty looked out over thousands of immigrants as they passed on their boats, and they looked back at her, a beacon of hope for a new way of life. But arriving at Ellis Island was just the beginning. So what happened to immigrants when they entered Ellis Island? Well, in order for immigrants to be able to stay in America, the inspectors of the Bureau of Immigration had to decide if an immigrant was clearly and without a doubt entitled to land. When ships entered the harbor, inspectors would go aboard to question first and second class passengers. These individuals were allowed to exit the boat once it docked. The third class passengers, those staying in steerage, they had to stay aboard for hours, even days, until a barge or ferry could take them to Ellis Island. After entering the immigration station, everyone lined up for a medical exam. Doctors watched for signs of limping, unsteadiness, and difficulty breathing. They inspected skin and scalp for infections. The doctors were also on alert for diseases like trachoma, which affected the eye and was extremely painful. Immigrants who were found to have diseases like this were likely to be deported or sent back to their homeland. A legal inspection was another hurdle that immigrants had to cross. Aside from providing background information like their name, birthplace, age, occupation, and destination, many had to provide proof that they had enough money to take care of themselves. If they didn't pass the test, they would go before another board of inspectors who made the final decision. But in the end, only 2% of the 12 million people who passed through Ellis Island were deported. Sometimes immigrants were detained or kept on the island for days, weeks, or even months while they recovered from some sickness or while they waited for their hearing before a board of special inquiry. Every morning, inspectors announced who would be admitted to America, and it was an exciting time for families. Millions of immigrants entered the United States through Ellis Island over the years, the Statue of Liberty welcoming each and every one as they passed. And while the immigration process often presented challenges, millions of immigrants continued to flow into the United States for a better way of life. As the years passed, fewer and fewer immigrants came to our country through Ellis Island. Finally, in 1954, the once busy immigration station closed. But Ellis Island's doorway didn't stay closed forever. In 1965, President Lyndon Johnson made the former inspection station a national monument. Then, in 1984, Ellis Island underwent a major restoration, the largest restoration in U.S. history. And in 1990, the immigration station became the Ellis Island Immigration Museum. Exhibits, movies, and photographs record 6 decades of history. Today, the museum receives almost 2 million visitors every year.